Welcome, friends, it's the Moviefilm Podcast. Moviefilm Podcast, enjoy the show. Zachy and Brian are talking about movies. Moviefilm Podcast on the radio.
Welcome to Movie Film. It's episode 314, brought to you by Mr. Boy Productions. I'm Zachy Hassan, and I'm here with my favorite April Fool, Brian Hall.
Hey, how's it going, Zachy?
What's up?
You know what's funny? Speaking of April Fool's Day, there's like a news item we'll talk about later that seemed kind of unlikely, and it's funny because we'll get to that. But for now, it just struck me because when I heard that news item, I was like, "Oh, well, it's April Fool's Day. That can't possibly be." And then, of course, it turns out to be true. And I thought, what a funny thing that one day out of the year, even adults like engage with this like children's game where like just because it's April 1st, if like some grown person tells me something, I go, not so fast, Jeff. I know what you're doing to me. Isn't that like just this funny thing that we all just like buy into and accept?
It gets more aggravating the older I get. Because especially as it pertains to like specifically movie news websites, because that was very much a trend in our younger days, like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And it feels like most movie news sites have dispensed with that practice.
It does. Yeah. I feel like I'm seeing it less. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So every once in a while you get these things and it's like, I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then that it turned out to be true. But then there was another one that I saw on Reddit where it said, "Oh, there's going to be an AMA with Kevin Spacey." Oh. And I remember thinking, like, the audacity, but also like, well, I'm very curious about that. And then it occurred to me, like, oh, Brian,
and you just got rickrolled.
Yeah, exactly. But then, my brother was saying he talked to some coworker and his kid wanted to play some April Fool's Day joke on him. And one of them, he found out that the kid abandoned was that he was going to replace a shampoo bottle with syrup, like maple syrup. I was like, that's not an April Fool's Day joke.
Yeah, that's just mean.
I'd be like pissed. Kevin. But yeah. So yeah, I don't know. You need to teach the finer points of April Fool's Day.
I feel like it used to be about the fooling, Brian.
Yeah, exactly.
We've lost the thread.
Not like upending your entire morning. But what the kid ended up doing, which I thought was really funny. Apparently, he's like, I don't know, like 8 or 9 or something. Was with his mom's help, they emptied a beer bottle and filled it with water, and he just walked past his dad drinking the beer bottle.
See, now that's funny.
That was just the image in my mind cracks me up.
That's a good prank.
Yeah, that's going. But anyway, did you have anybody try to pull something on you?
No, well, this past week I was on spring break, so it kind of worked out. I was just holed up at home,
Yeah.
My children know better than to fool with me. They know what's good for them.
You're right.
He said, shaking his fist thusly.
Yeah.
But what have you seen lately? Anything interesting?
Yeah, I've seen some stuff. And, I got to say, some interesting stuff. Sometimes we lament at the movies that there are, nothing but sequels and superhero films and remakes. But this past weekend, I went and saw Death of a Unicorn.
Ah, yes. The reason there are only sequels and remakes.
Yes, this movie did not perform.
It's a shame. I wanted to see it. I'm glad you had a chance to check it out.
Yeah, I have to say, when I saw the trailer for this, I mean, it's an A24 movie, stars Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, father and daughter, and they hit a unicorn while they're driving down the freeway. And then it's like, well, what do we do with this thing? And then it becomes, maybe it has magical properties that we could harvest for pharmaceuticals. But if you do that, then you mess with this unicorn, the unicorn's family could show up. And what if unicorns aren't so nice? And it turns almost into like Jurassic Park, and you're like hiding in a location and these crazy unicorns and their, pointy horns, they're like coming to get you and gore you. Like, that's a really interesting idea, but I have to say the trailer didn't do a lot for me.
Right.
I don't know. Something about the tone wasn't feeling right. or like something I would be interested in, even though I love that premise. And so this is a total credit to the Regal Unlimited, where my friend on a Saturday was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go see this at noon. You want to come?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, what do I have to lose?" Right? Like, it's, so to speak, it's free. So low risk, and ended up kind of enjoying it. Actually, it was more fun than I expected, but it also didn't rise to the level I was kind of hoping for after like the first act. Like the setup is really interesting. I mean, like, Paul Rudd plays the lawyer for this really wealthy family that, owns, it's like they own a pharmaceutical company. And he really wants to be in good with them because this will set him and his daughter up for life if he becomes some sort of partner, right? So he wants to please these people. But then when they discover the unicorn, they're like, "Oh, well, we could saw down its horn and maybe it'll cure this and it'll cure that and whatever." And then, of course, these angry unicorns show up to retrieve the the dead one. And it I think it wants to be like a satire of the rich, and how they'll exploit anything, and thinking there'll be no cost to themselves. But the satire comes off like a little blunt and on the nose, and
oh, interesting. Okay.
It wasn't very funny. Although people are doing they're going for it. Like, Richard E. Grant is in this, and he's really good.
Well, he's always good.
Yeah, Téa Leoni is fun. It's fun to see her. Will Poulter plays like their son, who's kind of like, entitled, but doesn't like realize it, which is kind of a funny character, and and Anthony Carrigan, who I freaking love from Barry. Unfortunately, he doesn't get enough to do in this movie, but he plays like their sort of like butler. So like it's a really promising setup, a lot of great actors, some interesting ideas, but they all wind up feeling sort of like sketches of ideas versus fully formed ideas. Like, the satire, like I say, is a little on the nose and not particularly funny. And like, there's a relationship dynamic between Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega that's really sweet, actually. And I kind of, him being torn between showing up for his daughter, who thinks all this is a bad idea, but also, but if we please these people and we can kind of make this work, this will be good for us long term. Right. That dilemma is kind of interesting. But it just, it felt the whole thing feels a little uneven and a little thin.
Wow.
Like a little, like even in the middle, it started to like dip a little bit, like the pace, and and it also goes from sort of like Jurassic Parky, and like there's some nice tension and a little restraint in the horror, and then the next moment it'll go full B movie, like gore, and so it feels a little schizophrenic in its tone.
Tone's not working for it. See, I'm genuinely surprised. I thought you were going to be like, "Hey, here's a little gem that is worth checking out."
I wish I could say that, but I will say is everything that I've said, going in with like no expectations and actually expecting not to like it, I did go, "Oh, well, that was like a fun little Saturday afternoon thing. I wish it had been a little better."
Interesting.
That's kind of what I left with. So I think it's like a low risk Friday night. Oh, that's streaming now, which I hate saying. You know what I mean? And I say that because I doubt it'll be in theaters much longer. But you know what I mean? Like, go in with like set expectations, and it is kind of fun. Like, it has enough fun ideas for me to go like, well, I did enjoy watching it. I just wish you see the potential there, and you wish it had been, filled out just a little bit better.
Yeah.
So yeah. Like we both walked out like, oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
But like, I kind of wish this had happened, or I wish they'd done a little bit of that. You do that thing. Oh, that was fun, but
yeah. ...
Well,
while you're on the subject of movies that are getting ignored in the theater, I feel like I should mention my own experience.
Yeah.
I recently, last week, I enjoyed a private screening of The Day the Earth Blew Up.
A private screening? What do you mean?
A private screening in that I was the only one in the theater. I purchased a ticket, and I had the entire room to myself.
Wow.
And this was a medium-sized theater, by the way.
Isn't that so sad?
Yeah, this is a Looney Tunes movie. I think we talked about it in a previous episode. Starring Porky and Daffy Duck.
Yeah, which I don't think I've seen one trailer for, by the way. Like, I only know this because I read, movie sites and things.
Yeah, I don't think I saw a trailer for it either. And I was like, well, it's a Looney Tunes movie. I want to go see it in the theater. And so I'm glad I did. Although, it's kind of an epic flop. It cost $15 million, and it's made 10 million so far.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, this thing wasn't even released to theaters so much as it escaped. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. This is. I mean, we've talked about Coyote versus Acme a lot. Was this? I actually don't recall. Was this a Warner Brothers thing that they were going to just hit the delete key and Ketchup Entertainment saved?
Well, it was released by Ketchup Entertainment, but I'm not sure how it ended up with them.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, it I think it was just something like Warner Brothers was probably just gonna sell the distribution rights to whoever wanted it, kind of thing. I don't think it was like a tax write-off thing.
Interesting. I wonder why the other one was such a big deal. Maybe because it was a higher budget.
Maybe, but
Or a bigger
honestly,
deal, I should say. Not
the decision making at Warner Brothers has been baffling for several years
yeah.
now. So this is just par for the course. But it's a good, fun animated film. If you love the Looney Tunes characters, I don't think you'll be disappointed. I feel like it'll be streaming shortly.
Yeah.
And it's worth a look. I'm glad I saw it in the theater.
Oh, good. Okay.
You know.
Okay.
I'm glad I had that experience, and it's just nice to see traditional animation, 2D animation, in this format, and it's a very Looney Tunes style film. You have like a kind of a Invasion of the Body Snatchers storyline, but with Daffy and Porky, and this is like classic woohoo Daffy,
My favorite.
not your despicable Daffy.
I love like unhinged Daffy.
Yeah, this is that.
Yeah. Well, so something I wonder too is when you say old school Looney Tunes, but this is made in 2025. I mean, does it feel like people striving to feel like something old, and you're like trying to squint a little bit to make it like, oh yeah, I think they kind of did it, or you know what I'm saying? Like, or does it feel modern? Or does it feel like the old school, or does it feel like modern trying to feel old school? Like, does it land the tone it's striving for, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So if you look on Max, they have Looney Tunes cartoons. That's the show. And it's modern Looney Tunes shows.
Yeah.
And so this is like those.
Okay.
I believe it's made by the same people. So it's that style of humor, which is very much indebted to the early years of the Looney Tunes shorts from like the 30s and 40s.
Right. All right. Well, hey, I mean, I wish, this reminds me also, by the way, that movie Black Bag, the Steven Soderbergh movie.
Yeah.
Kept thing. Michael Fassbender, Cate Blanchett. I was like, I want to see that. I know it's not going to be a big release. It'll probably go to streaming soon, but I want to get out and see that in a theater. It's like 90 minutes and I hear it's good. And dude, it's freaking streaming already. Like it's been like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And
I don't get it.
Yeah. And so I just haven't had the time. And I'm like, it's probably not even going to be there next week. I won't even, I was going to try to go see this thing, but it's like you're like racing against the clock now to see stuff in theaters.
Yeah. I feel like the studios are having sort of a come to Jesus moment where they're realizing that by expediting the race to streaming, they're kneecapping themselves.
Right.
Again, not that long ago, it was 90 days. Now it's 45 days is at the outer edge. And some of these things, it's like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You're not going to get more people going into the theater,
Yeah. And I think that's, it seems like what the strategy is. Best case scenario is we put it out. We will put it on streaming earlier than you're used to. However, we will keep it in theaters for a couple more weeks for those who are inclined. And then it will all be streaming. And like that, I can kind of live with if that's what we have to do.
Right.
So like if this can stay in theaters for at least 1 or 2 more weeks, well, then I get to see it the way I want. And then the person who would prefer to see it at home, they get to see it the way they want. So
see, my thought is if people are going to watch it at home anyway, then putting it on streaming 2 weeks earlier isn't doing the movie any favors.
Yeah, sure.
Like if they're, you know what I mean? If they're waiting to watch it at home, they'll wait till whenever.
Yeah, they'll wait a month versus 2 weeks. But
so
yeah, but
you know,
less people will be inclined to maybe make the extra effort to leave their house to go to a theater
yeah.
to catch it.
Like if streaming is essentially serving the role that physical media used to play, then why not give yourself that window?
I agree. And it's funny though, because I am also trying to be more mindful, because obviously we're very pro theatrical experience, and I think most people listening probably are too. But like I said, I have this subscription service. I pay $25 a month and I can see whatever I want. So I'm more willing to take gambles
Right.
on things. But I'm also trying to be mindful. Like I think of my brother and his wife, like they don't have that. And if I'm like, hey, do you want to go see Death of a Unicorn? It's like, hey, do you want to risk $18 on something you don't know very much about? Like the theater going experience has gotten really expensive.
Right.
And so I do want to like keep that in mind a little bit. Streaming is probably very appealing, especially to people with families and a lot of tickets to purchase.
Right.
And I mean, I think that's something they need to think about too, but I don't know.
Well, on that note, I know you caught a couple things on streaming recently.
I did. Yeah. First I'll talk about a new streaming series on Apple TV Plus called The Studio.
Yeah.
Have you caught this?
I saw the first episode. Yeah.
Perfect. This is from Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, writing duo. And of course, we all know Seth Rogen, but he basically plays
friends of the show, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg.
That's true. Yeah. So I mean, it's basically about a studio executive who becomes the studio head, played by Seth Rogen, and just how chaotic it is trying to run a studio. Trying to work with marketing and filmmakers and even a studio head has bosses and a board to answer to, and so just how he juggles all of those things. And it's funny, I've seen reactions online be either very positive or just like, nah, I don't really like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that makes sense because this is a very specific lane. this show,
it's very inside, right?
Yeah, and I really enjoyed it. I've seen 2 so far. Okay. I think it's really
I like what I've seen. I like the first episode a lot.
Yeah, and I'll admit, if I have one criticism, it's that Seth Rogen's character, who's the head of a studio. I mean, very few people get to do this and have that much power, and he seems less like someone who is an adult who earned his way there, and more like the kid from Rookie of the Year who's suddenly finding himself in the big leagues and sort of like, what? Whoa, and like a little bit more flappable. Which is, it's funny because it makes for great comedy, but like episode 2, where he's basically on set and just making a mess and acting so awkward. I was like, stop! Like I kept yelling at the screen. He was making me so uncomfortable and like, why is he behaving like this? But of course, that's the show. You know what I mean? Like that's where the comedy comes from.
Right.
But it was stressing me out a little bit. And I was like, how would someone in this position be behaving like this? So I have to acknowledge, because I've seen other people actually after I watched this stuff say that, like, why would someone like that behave this way? But like, you just kind of have to hand wave that away.
Otherwise you don't have a show.
You don't have a show. Exactly. But, episode 1 I thought was really fun and stressful. It was a like kind of a compressed look at what it would be like to run a studio, where it's like your bosses are like, hey, we bought the rights to Kool-Aid, so now you have to figure out how to make a successful Kool-Aid movie in the vein of Barbie. But at the same time, you want to be in business with Martin Scorsese. And so it's like, well, how do you juggle trying to make a Scorsese movie and trying to make a Kool-Aid movie, and like, just, you know what I mean? Making it all sing. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed watching that. And then 2 is about Sarah Polley plays herself making a movie, and she's trying to pull off a oneer shot at sunset, and then the episode itself is a oneer, as showing how difficult that is to pull off, and you only get so many shots and all the things that can go wrong. And it was driving me crazy, and it was stressing me out, but at the end of the day, that means it did its job.
Right.
So yeah, I'm enjoying the world, and with Severance gone, now I'm happy to have like a new show each week to go, hey, that dropped. So that's how I'm feeling about the studio. I don't know. You? Same?
Well, just what I've seen so far, I really liked. Yeah, I'm just trying to find the time to squeeze it in.
Yeah. But it's cool, and also there's a lot of cameos and having Scorsese himself in it. Not just like he gets name checked, but he's actually a character in the show. And
Right. Paul
he's
Dano's in the first episode.
Yeah. Charlize Theron, and yeah, it's fun. It goes down easy, and I think if people like nuts and bolts kind of insider Hollywoody stories, I think there's something to enjoy.
Yeah. Well, if you're looking for a show, I've mentioned this a couple times. The Pit, the final episode is about to drop.
I'm seeing so much about that now after you've told me about it. People love
I know, isn't that funny? Like that's been really gratifying to see, just the organic groundswell for this show.
Yeah, I mean, like I always believed you, of course, but like sometimes the things we like don't always like pick up traction or become something that like general audiences, get on board with. But yeah, this seems to like have really picked up an audience.
Yeah, well, you got a very solid season waiting for you.
Yeah, it sounds good. I can see getting into that.
Yeah.
Lastly, I'll just say really quickly, because we've talked about it before, but Den of Thieves 2, you reviewed that.
Pantera,
which is just a pretty rad word, isn't it? I mean, you just add that to anything, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, the Smurfs, Pantera.
Pantera.
You're like, I'm not a big Smurfs guy, but I feel like I should check that out.
Maybe I should watch that.
Yeah. But yeah, so we had talked about Den of Thieves. That was something that I think you and I both didn't really watch when it first came out.
That's right.
But then I ended up watching it and going, well, dang, that was pretty good. The Gerard Butler heist film, sort of Heat light, but I don't even want to call it Heat light. That's doing a little bit of a disservice.
More like warmth.
Heat warmth. Yeah. And I mean, it's certainly striving to be sort of like a Heat-esque story. And I'd say it does a pretty darn good job, actually. It's very compelling. And so anyway, Den of Thieves 2, I was like, well, sign me up. And Zachy now has it in his voodoo. Sign me up. So, I really enjoyed it, actually. And it's
a fun one. It's different. It's totally different.
It's totally different. I was going to say, it's like the first one is a little bit more straightforward, high tension heist kind of thing. This one has like a weird, dreamy, laid back vibe to it.
Yeah.
It's weirdly,
more of a caper.
It's a caper. It's a heist story. It's sort of a buddy movie. And it's also kind of a hang.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's like scenes where like these two guys are like on e-scooters just bonding.
Yeah.
And there's like a scene too where, as they're preparing for the heist, all the guys are like in a garage and they're basically fighting over the Spotify, like which song to pick. And I was like, these feel like scenes you could have deleted, but I'm kind of enjoying them. Like it's nestling me into their world. I mean, there's a little Donnie Brasco situation here going on, where it's just like, well, this guy's a former cop. Can this criminal trust him to bring him into his gang? Like, what are we supposed to feel about this? But like, it was easing me along having scenes like that and building their relationship that I was really enjoying. And it's interesting too. I mean, right when you get down to it, the heist at the end isn't like an Ocean's 11 crazy twisty turny heist. Like it feels kind of straightforward, but in a way that I sort of appreciated because it felt a little bit more real world. And so, I mean, there's something has to go wrong and you have to figure out how they're going to get out of it and stuff. But like, I don't know, man, this feels like it switched lanes a little bit and it's in a lane all by itself. And I kind of dug it. I kind of dug it's 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Probably longer than it needed to be.
Maybe a little longer than it needs to be. But I also, I read your review as soon as I finished it and I didn't disagree, but I also was like, I did appreciate some of those moments where it was just sort of hanging out. Like there's a scene where they're talking about their dads. And
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I could totally imagine cutting this and the movie would be fine, but I'm glad they kept it.
Well, anytime we can hear Gerard Butler, mumble his way through an American accent.
It's so,
my dad didn't love me very much. I hear you, Gerard.
Yes.
I'm telling you, because I watched both of the Den of Thieves movies. I've mentioned on the show, and then I watched Greenland, which I liked a lot, and then I watched Plane, which I liked a lot.
Yes, right. Plane. Oh, I got to get to that. Yeah.
And I had that realization. I was like, I think I think I'm like a Gerard Butler guy now.
Yeah, I think I'm becoming one. So I need to
And
catch up.
what you realize, like you have once you cross that threshold, it's a choice. It's like once you start wearing Axe body spray, you're an Axe body spray guy.
Right.
I think I'm a Gerard Butler guy now. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think like how I liked the Liam Neeson action films
Yeah.
from a decade or more back, but they started to feel a little bit like they were, repeating themselves or becoming a little less potent. I feel like this is taking its place in a way that I'm really happy about.
Well, for sure, watch Plane because I feel very certain you will enjoy that.
Dude, great. I mean, yeah, I did not see becoming a Den of Thieves fan on my bingo card.
Right? Yeah, and they had a third one coming. I'm like, yes, sign me up, man.
Dude, I'm there.
Yeah.
I will. I missed this one in theaters. I meant to, but it went too fast. But I will make an effort to see 3 in theaters for sure.
Yeah, it feels very kind of an organic Fast and Furious type situation.
Yeah, good call. Good call.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't envisioned as a franchise necessarily, but there is clearly an audience for it. Keep the budget somewhat in check, and you got something that word of mouth is creating an audience for.
Yeah, and they found a way that this feels like an organic continuation.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, actually, speaking of organic continuations or lack thereof, I know you mentioned you saw Rambo: Last Blood.
Yes. So we talked about it, I assume. I know we talked about it, you and I. Sometimes I forget what was real life and the show or a commentary or, but yeah, we did a commentary for Rambo Part 2 or First Blood Part 2. And I think we talked about the, following First Blood, which is sort of a human drama.
Yeah.
Then Part 2 becomes a little bit more cartoonish, but it still feels like a lot of fun and you're rooting for Rambo and his objective. And then as they go along, they become a little bit more violent and a little bit less, like tethered to reality. And you were talking about Last Blood and how you didn't like it very much. And it was like a very gore filled, like Home Alone, basically.
Yeah.
So I didn't think I would ever check it out, but there was one night, I mean, I was about to turn in, it was 11:30 at night or something, and I had the TV on, and it was starting on like AMC, man. Like, I mean, with like ads. But I was like, oh, Zachy was just talking about this. Well, let's see how it starts. And so then I started it, and then it went to like an ad, and I was like, all right. So then I like kind of went on my phone, and I was like, I think I wrote like a couple texts to people and stuff. Then it came back, and I was like, oh, took it off mute, put it back on. Next thing I know, I'm like up till like 2 a.m. watching the whole thing. And
Wow.
First side note, I don't think AMC edits their movies anymore because, dear Lord, I was like, you can show that on TV? I was not prepared. Yeah, not great. Not great. And I say that as
this is like within 48 hours of you having seen Rambo First Blood Part 2.
Yeah, because again, Stallone himself has said that Part 2 begins to turn into a cartoon, and he's not wrong. But like the emotions are real.
Sure.
And it's it's kind of crazy watching one man take out like 100 people and whatever. But you're rooting for the objective. You want him to get these POWs out, and like it still feels it's kind of whatever. I think we said, is it a good movie? Not necessarily, but is it good at what it's doing? Yes, it is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this just feels, I mean, the plot is really, really thin, and it just becomes like, okay, someone who's near and dear to him gets sold into sex trafficking, and that's horrible, and that's a real world thing. And of course, I'm like, I hate these villains.
Yeah.
But then the second half just becomes, I mean, you said it best, like it just becomes this hard R Home Alone where he basically leads these people to his compound and he sets up these insane traps, which he does in 2, but he does in 1 actually.
Yeah.
But they do feel real world, things. But in this one, literally it ends. Spoiler. It literally ends with him being like, when you took this person from me, it felt like you were tearing out my heart. So now I'm going to tear out yours. And he just sticks his knife, slowly pulls down this guy's chest, pulls out his still beating heart.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, like we have really we are somewhere else. We are in another universe from that first movie.
Yeah.
And it feels not great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, like, there's a little righteous vengeance going on in the first couple ones.
Yeah.
And in this
I was going to say, this is just vengeance. It's not righteous.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't like these people.
Right.
But, like, it just feels like exploitive or just kind of gross.
You know, so I have a couple thoughts, right? I think, and I've said this all along, and you tell me if I'm wrong, it could have been any character and it wouldn't have impacted the story at all. There was no reason for it to be Rambo.
I think, yeah, I texted you. I don't have it in front of me, but I think I said I'm like a little offended, like as a Rambo fan. Like, if you want, like, out of respect for the character,
right.
If you want to make this movie like Stallone, make your hard R version of Taken, like, go for it. You know, be, you know, Steve Abernathy, you know, or something. But like, this doesn't feel like Rambo or a Rambo movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you know, they give him like a surrogate daughter character.
Yes,
and honestly, like, what the movie does to her, I found it offensive.
Yeah, it's
like not even the sex trafficking part, but the fact that she's essentially fridged.
Yeah.
Sorry if that's a spoiler, but F this movie.
Yeah.
And it's 6 years old. Who gives a shit?
Right.
Like, have her go through something horrible, but at least let her come out the other side of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very.
It feels like they do that to her just to justify that effing goddamn horror show at the end.
Yes,
when he's like, "I'm up here, you morons," and he puts the tarantula on the guy's face and stuff.
Dude, you're like not far off. I mean, he really is like over here, you know, and just like, you know, yeah, it's,
you know,
yeah, it just. Yeah, it just feels like a total misunderstanding of the character that oddly came from the person who, you know, like, is the character and like writes.
Weird, right?
I think, as far as I understand, like, right, did he write First Blood?
He wrote the scripts for all of them, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Or drafts them, you know. And it ends in a way. Sorry, in a way that's like, you know, kind of infuriating too, where it's like, is he dead? We don't know.
Yeah, he gets. Well, that's the other thing too. You know, he goes through it pretty much unscathed. Like, there isn't a lot of challenge to this. We are just watching people be maimed for like, you know, 30, 40 minutes or something, with him just being like, yeah, like kind of like a whack-a-mole, just like whoop, whoop, like in different parts of this tunnel, you know, shotgun to the face, blasting people and these booby traps and stuff. But then, of course, there has to be some sort of, you know, opposition to him. So he gets shot in the side, and it ends with him basically everyone's dead. He just ripped a still beating heart out of a man's chest, and then he hobbles to a rocking chair on a porch,
and his life flashes before his eyes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was also kind of cheap or something, you know. It's like, is he gonna die? I don't know. And then it goes to the credits, and then it shows clips from the previous films, and you're like, yeah, I don't know, man. This is kind of working against you. There was something recently that we watched where they showed clips from the previous films, and I was like, I don't know if you want to do that, because that was so much better. The older ones. Didn't that just happen? Yes. I do remember Dumb and Dumber 2, T.O. did that. You know, and I remember thinking, like, why would you do that? You're just in the 2 minutes you're showing me like how much superior,
how much better that was
to what I just witnessed. But I feel like there was something recently that did that also, and I was like, I don't know if you want to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I'll just reiterate what I said before. The previous film, the Rambo from 2008, it ends with him leaving. He has left Myanmar. He returns to the United States for the first time since, you know, the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And he has his knapsack, and it's his family ranch, and he embarks down the trail towards the home.
Yeah.
We hear the music from the beginning of First Blood, and credits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's it. That's the end of Rambo's story. We don't need to go a frame past that.
Yeah, that's a good ending.
You know? And that's, I said this in our commentary. I'm like, how about you just let this guy just enjoy retirement and not have him be a freaking goddamn octogenarian serial killer, you know?
Serial killer. Yeah, exactly.
You know? Well, I'm glad you saw it anyway, because at least we got to have this conversation.
No, me too. I'm really happy to discuss it with you. And also, well, I've done it. Now I've seen them all. So
There you go.
But I, you know what though? If I'm gonna give it any credit at all, I commercials and everything. I kept going. So
Well, that ain't. Now, bear in mind, you could have at any point jumped over to my Vudu and watched the whole thing uninterrupted.
that occurred to me. It did occur to me. I don't know why I kept doing it. Maybe I was enjoying the breaks a little bit. Like I was.
You need a little breather.
Yeah. I don't. But we've talked about that before. I don't know what that weird compulsion is when there's a movie on and there's like Return of the Jedi or something, and there's like, they're like interrupting every 5 minutes when I could just go over to some app and watch it. But
yeah.
Yet I continue to watch it that way, broken up. I don't know why.
It's one of your character flaws.
Yes, yeah. That's fine.
Real quick, I wanted to mention this movie out in theaters right now. It's a tip to be number one, and it is a Minecraft movie.
Oh, dude, I am so curious. I mean, this is set to be a cultural moment for a certain generation, I assume.
Yeah.
And I know nothing about this. So I am so curious what you thought.
Well, I know of the game mainly because my kids play it. All my kids, play constantly, so I'm aware of it through that. And my oldest, he's 18. He's going to be seeing it with his friend, and he's like, I'm watching it ironically. I'm like,
okay,
all right, man. I'm like, okay.
Well, oh, I see. Yeah.
Man, sure. I was like, make sure you tell the movie theater that you purchased your tickets ironically.
Right.
I'm like, how much is it? $40 for 2 tickets? Okay, just mark ironic, and they won't charge you. Yeah.
Right.
But this stars Jack Black as Steve. Brian.
Okay, wait. So real quick, can you give me, as best you can, a little bit of a summation of the video game and how it works? And is there a Steve? Like what? I'm showing my age here. I don't know anything about this game.
So the video game it's an open world. It's called a sandbox game.
Okay.
Because it's a 3-dimensional open world where you can go through and you can build things and it's like Battle Royale minus the gratuitous violence and stuff.
Okay.
You're existing in this world. So the first character, the skin of your character when you start is Steve.
Oh, okay. So Steve is okay. I see.
Steve is iconic. Steve is like Sonic for the post millennial generation.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah.
Let's do it. Let's go.
I don't have anything to say about this, honestly. I was sitting there watching this. I went to the press screening. I had my 3 middle kids with me.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like a third of the way in, I'm just like, I had this like moment of this existential angst. Because I'm watching Jack Black and Jason Momoa, and they're doing their thing, and blah, blah, and they're very watchable.
Okay,
but I'm picturing them just acting against a green screen nothingness.
Sure.
That's filled in with a bunch of cube shaped bullshit.
So I mean, is there a story? I mean, does it?
I mean, there is a story, but it's a story you've seen a million times before.
Okay. Yeah.
It feels like it's Minecraft by way of Jumanji with some Lego movie thrown in. It's plug and play.
Sure.
And it's just let's be clear. Look, I am not in any way, shape, or form the audience for this movie.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
But it's not like I was the audience for the Barbie movie. But
that's a great point. Or right? The Lego movie necessarily.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That was that. I remember. It's funny. It's beloved now, but when it was announced, everyone is like, "What and why?"
Yeah. I mean, we are. In the studio, they talk about the Kool-Aid movie. I mean, this is like one step away from that.
I thought that was so brilliant. I mean, that's so it. Yeah, it's like, all right, we own Kool-Aid, so figure out how to do Barbie again with Kool-Aid.
Yeah, so this is very clearly, do Barbie with Minecraft, Again, I will say, I enjoyed Jack Black. I enjoyed Jason Momoa.
Mm-hmm.
The story did nothing for me. And yet the movie's probably going to do really well. So we're going to get dozens more of these friggin' things.
It's so funny. I was actually thinking, oh, man. But then I also thought, well, I don't know if I really care. Like, if this is, we've talked about this before. Like I kind of, for the kids that I don't have, like I lament that there's no longer like the PG movie.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember a couple years ago, I want to say it was DreamWorks came out with some sort of like monster trucks movie where like the trucks are actual monsters.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I remember
it's called
thinking,
Monster Trucks, I think.
yeah, and I saw the trailer and I remember thinking that you couldn't drag me to that. That looks like it's not for me at all. However, I'm glad there's a movie for 10-year-olds. Like there's no movies for 10-year-olds anymore, you know? So like part of me thinks, well, good, I guess, you know, there should be. We had plenty of movies that were aimed at 10-year-old us, you know, but I mean, I would like them to be good, you know, like you don't want to give them just drivel, but yeah, I don't know.
You're not wrong. You know, I personally remember watching the Super Mario Brothers animated movie from a couple of years ago, also with Jack Black. So he's cornered his niche, and I remember that movie did very little for me. But you know, you and I both talked about the audience really being into it. I have no doubt this will do well, but I find it dispiriting that they didn't try to do something a little more creative. You know, this is a game about creativity, and it's a movie that's about as uncreative as it could be.
See, that's really interesting, and also it makes me think of the Dungeons and Dragons movie where
I was hoping for that. That was literally when I went in. I was like, you know, if we got something like Dungeons and Dragons, I'd be pretty happy.
Which was great, yeah, and a lot of people missed out on it. But it's weird because the nature of that game is, you know, you're making it up as you go. So you wonder then if you're a fan of those games and you're watching a movie that you're not in control of, if it will feel as satisfying. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think that if you're a fan, you'll appreciate, oh, like I know this land and I know these creatures, and you know, it's a lot of Leo DiCaprio pointing at the screen and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you know.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Movie did not do much for me, but again, it sure seems like it's poised to do quite well over the weekend. So, I'm, you know, I haven't looked at Rotten Tomatoes, so I don't know where my review landed, but you know,
yeah. Well, like if I can indulge me a little bit here, it's funny because it makes me think. I was listening to the Conan O'Brien podcast, and he had Danny McBride on, and somehow the Goonies came up, and Danny McBride was like, "I love the Goonies."
Yeah.
And it was funny because I don't know why it surprised me, but I was like, oh, interesting. And then, you know, of course, Sona was just like, oh, no, yeah, I adore the Goonies. And I was thinking about, you know, my friend Chad and I, they played it in a theater about a year ago. And we're like, well, I mean, we've seen it 100 times. Why not? And when we came out of it, I expected to go, oh, that was fun. The movie I know, but bigger. And I came out being like, that movie's like really good. and it's just, I mean, not every movie can be that, but I do appreciate, I don't know, like a lot of thought and care and love went into that movie and the characters in that movie and the adventure of that movie, that it still resonates.
Yeah.
I would say mostly, maybe not entirely, but largely with like a younger audience that gets introduced to it. But also the people who saw it back then, even as adults, still look at it. Sometimes you look at a movie from when you were a kid and go, oh, well, I liked it when I was young. But like people still adore that movie. And you just wish that every movie aimed at kids was handled with that much love and care.
I fully agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just to pick up on the point you're making, I mean, the Lego movie, at least the first one, you know, it did very well. It was very well regarded.
Yeah.
But it's been 10 years. I don't know that anybody really talks about it anymore.
That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it could be like a generational thing too. I mean, because we had less things, so things maybe stuck a little harder. I mean, dude,
scarcity.
Yeah, well, and then just that movie made such an impression on me. I remember as a kid wanting to be a Goonie and like putting on a backpack and riding my bike and imagining I was on an adventure. And then I'm not kidding. Like a couple weeks ago, I was in a cave, like on a cave tour, and I had a little lantern. And I'm like 5 years old, and I was like, I'm a Goonie. Like, you know what I mean? I guess
hearing Cyndi Lauper playing in your
yeah, you know, and it's just, you know, that lightning in a bottle. Like, it can't happen over and over again. But yeah, like I think it's cool that Minecraft exists for a certain audience that isn't us. But at the same time, you just hope that people are putting the same love and care into something that people will still love 30 years from now.
Yeah, and the jury's still out on that. You know.
Yeah. Meh.
Hey, Brian, so we got some listener letters too.
Oh, let's hear it.
So this is a we've been putting our episodes and commentaries on YouTube, and that's been kind of fun because we have fairly often we have people finding our stuff through YouTube and dipping like way back into the archives.
Yeah, that's been great.
Right. So here's a comment that was left on YouTube by Luke's Mail 24, and this is on our commentary track for Planet of the Apes, the original Planet of the Apes.
That was our first commentary.
Our very first commentary track from 11 years ago, but finding new viewers.
That's awesome.
And it is my missionary purpose to bring Planet of the Apes to the masses.
Yes, and it's your works continue apparently.
That my work continues. So here is a comment on that. It says, I remember seeing this for the first time and having zero idea about the ending, but because of
Amazing. Sorry,
really
that's awesome.
that talk about the perfect way. I would say impossible to experience the movie that way now.
Yeah.
But because of the lack of marketing when I saw it for the first time, it kept the true plot in the dark for me when I finally saw it on VHS aged 8. I had two thoughts. One, that is brilliant. Two, so that's why the Statue of Liberty is buried this way in Spaceballs.
That's great.
I love that even that didn't give away the ending.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that movie's so silly. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Now, of course, the Blu-ray, VHS, and posters of the movie have it plastered everywhere with the statue. I think this is a big marketing fail and should hide the statue, at least for this film. I was lucky with this, and Psycho, where I saw them at an age where pop culture hadn't ruined the surprises. Of course, I still knew who Darth Vader turned out to be, no avoiding that one even then. Outstanding commentary. Never knew Pierre Boulle was against the ending.
That is... that made me think of immediately was The Sixth Sense. How,
sure.
When you say, movie spoiler, like The Sixth Sense, like the ending of whatever, or, that is funny. Like it's like it's expected now. If you're going to look at something at Planet of the Apes, of course, the Statue of Liberty will be on the cover because we all know that. But obviously that's not true. The younger generations finding things for the first time.
Right.
And I wouldn't feel very guilty talking about the spoiler of The Sixth Sense for a long time because it was almost like just shorthand,
right,
with people. But now that I think about it, it's like, well, there's probably a generation coming up now that didn't see it in theaters, didn't see it on DVD, and maybe discovering it for the first time if it's on Netflix or something.
Uh-huh.
So in a weird way, they could have the experience that Luke had here.
Well, The Sixth Sense, I will say, because I screen it in my film classes, maybe a third know the ending.
Wow. Okay.
Of any given class. Yeah. So a lot of them don't.
So isn't that kind of weird? Like there's like this weird generational window where it's like, all right, we can all talk about this. We all understand it. But like, oh, shh, new generation's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, Planet of the Apes, I think at this point, there's no putting that back in the bottle,
Right.
But something like The Sixth Sense, I mean, I said before, I mean, I made it my mission to protect that secret from my kids' eyes and ears,
Yeah.
So that's why I screen it in my classes, because I'm like, I want them to have that experience of seeing it in a theater like this, and it's a tricky thing, but I am grateful that he got to experience that way, and also that we were able to inform a little bit about the history of that movie.
Oh man, I mean, if there's anyone, I would suggest listening to talk through that movie, it's you.
Well, we've done a couple more Apes commentaries. I just want to throw that out there if you're out there listening,
Absolutely, yeah.
Here's a note we got from Adam O, who says, listening to your discussion about sweeps and how the TV landscape has changed in the era of streaming, I wanted to weigh in with some personal anecdotes. In my family, we still have traditional TV in the form of YouTube TV. I love channel surfing and landing on a comfort food movie, Hunt for Red October, for example, or drifting off on a Saturday afternoon to the Food Network or Maine Cabin Masters. My wife is the target audience for the CBS procedurals and watches a surprising amount as they air. During the pandemic, my older kids and I got hooked on the 911 shows and have absolutely watched those night of. And even my 13-year-old, who's a fan of NCIS Sydney, will sit and watch it with me on a Friday night while it airs, if we don't have something else going on. Sunday nights are also for watching America's Funniest Videos. I fully admit we're probably outliers, especially watching a show on the night it shows. But like so many old-timey habits, I'm happy to have at least exposed my kids to it. A friend of mine half-jokingly says I'm a 45-year-old boomer with my TV habits and the fact I still go and buy a Sunday edition of the local paper every other week or so.
Can I just say that I like the cut of Adam's jib?
I was going to say, I was like, well, you have YouTube TV still too, and you're kind of hanging in there.
Just real quick, I have to note the paper thing. I don't read the newspaper anymore, and I don't have like a newsstand or anything by me. But you read that, I was like, I like the idea of that. That sounds nice. Like a cup of coffee, pulling out the sections of the paper. But yes, no, the TV thing, the whole thing about, stumbling upon The Hunt for October, I very much relate to that.
Sure. Well, you stumbled on Rambo: Last Blood.
Well, exactly. And I mean, an old example was I'd never seen the movie MASH. And several years ago, I was flipping channels. MASH was on TCM or something. And I was like, well, yeah, like I'd like to see this. And then I talked about it on the show. And then you and I got invited on another podcast because of that conversation to talk about MASH. And I thought, well, that's what channel flipping gets you, you know?
Yeah.
So I do relate to that. But I don't know. What's it like in your family? I mean, do you do that at all? Or is it all just sort of, hey, this is what we want to watch, so we're going to cue this up?
So it's funny you say this because just yesterday I was, sitting because I'm watching Daredevil Born Again with one of my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then, one of my other ones is like, I thought we were watching The West Wing together. And I was like, well, we are, but you guys are like never around, And I was like, well, let's put it on. Let's watch it right now. And I was saying, what we should do? We should just assign each of the shows that we're watching a night. Right. So in other words, I'm trying to create like a network model.
Yeah.
I'm like, we should just make it like Wednesday. That's West Wing.
Right.
Monday. That's, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got some time. What's today? Let's watch this. That's the day for this show, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think those patterns are helpful.
Right.
And look, if Adam's a boomer, then I guess we're all like giving boomer energy because I've been saying it. I'm till my, I'm losing my voice, Mr. Smith style. I'm like, linear TV worked. It wasn't broken enough to require just brooming the whole thing,
Right.
And look, The Pit. This is a show that's growing organically week to week. They're not spending a gajillion dollars. It's a goddamn doctor show.
Right.
It's the same type of shows that people have been watching. I mean, it's more gory, but they can't be spending that much on that show. It has one location. It's the emergency room of a hospital. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in other words, it's a show that leans into the type of comfort food TV people have always liked.
Mm-hmm.
CBS procedurals. You just say CBS procedural, you have a general sense what that's referring to.
Right.
I mean, we say it on the show all the time. Get thee to a procedural.
Right.
And let the residuals come in,
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. There's a reason that NCIS has been on for, I don't even know how long,
Yeah.
Law and Order SVU is going into its 27th season now.
Yeah.
Right. Well, those are people there. It's comfort food TV. That's what it's for, and this is what streaming took away.
You know what though? It's funny because you're talking about the timing. This is kind of funny timing for me. I may as well say it. So I was kind of switching up internet business recently, and it seemed to make sense to bundle with Spectrum, my only option apparently, where I live, with their cable service. So that means getting rid of YouTube TV, which I freaking love YouTube TV. The only complaint I have is sometimes the way it's compressed doesn't look great.
Oh, sure.
But that aside, I love the options. I love that when you're scrolling through all the channels, it shows you live what's happening. So I can see, again, Return of the Jedi's on TNT, and I can see the moment and go, oh yeah, I want to see that moment. And then I'll click on it, and I had tons of movies in my DVR. Anyway, so I had to get rid of YouTube. Well, I didn't have to, but I chose to get rid of YouTube TV to go over to Spectrum. I don't really like Spectrum's Guide. And like all those movies I'd kind of curated for myself, they're gone. And I like, again, Severance. It's Friday. I watched Severance on Apple TV. Oh, The Studio. It's like Tuesday. I watched that on Apple. I'll watch this on Netflix. Or the only really thing I watched on TV, which here's my secret shame. I'm a huge Below Deck guy. Like, but I watch it live? No. Like I watch it either later that night or the next day, and I just queue it up streaming. And so there was a little part of me that was like, would I miss this? I don't know. I think the big thing for me, again, is the spontaneity. Just I want to watch something. I kind of don't know what. I flip through and then like, oh, it's halfway through Clueless. Yeah, I kind of want to watch Clueless. Like I enjoy the inspiration it brings sometimes or something. Or there are fun discoveries, I guess. But yeah, just making the switch and losing what I had and not liking what I have now has made me think, would I miss it? I'm not sure.
Well, I got rid of YouTube TV a couple months ago.
So you don't have it at all now? Like
I just couldn't justify the expense,
It keeps going up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm like Homer telling Moe over the sound of a cash register, you just lost yourself another customer. I don't know, but it does seem to me like, yeah, more and more people are leaving over. You keep raising the price.
I mean, it is now almost double what it was when I first started.
Yeah. And it's like, look, if it's going to be like incremental, then it is what it is. But it's like, yeah, there's significant increases. And
yeah,
I don't know that I'm going to miss it. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm like one person they're not going to think about, or if this is something they're like, holy crap, we've got significant numbers walking away.
We just don't realize how good we had it.
I know. We just needed bunny ears.
We lived like kings, Brian. Damn hell ass kings.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Adam. Little hop in the Wayback Machine. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Speaking of hopping in the Wayback, hey, we got a new trailer that just dropped, and I was wondering when we would hear anything about this, because we had seen neither hide nor hair of The Naked Gun.
Yeah, we knew about it, and it's coming out this summer, but yeah, we hadn't seen images or anything.
We got our very first peek via CinemaCon this past week, and this is the reboot produced by Seth MacFarlane, directed by Akiva Schaffer, and starring Leslie Nielsen as Frank Drebin Jr.
Mm-hmm. And Pamela Anderson, Paul Walter Hauser, like a bunch of people in it.
So there is a brief teaser that dropped, which I don't think we should bother playing the audio from.
It's all visual, basically.
It's a lot of sight gags. However, what I've been told by people who attended CinemaCon is that they played a longer sizzle reel with quite a few more gags.
Oh, okay.
That is what I hear. However, I mean, you and I were both Naked Gun fans, I would say, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely for me, when I heard Liam Neeson was going to be playing the lead role, I was intrigued. Based on what we saw in this teaser up to this point, I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. Give me more.
I agree. I think it helped with expectations also, that, whenever you hear, oh, they're making something like, oh, they're going to make another Naked Gun, you're like, ugh, like, don't mess with it. But then when they said Liam Neeson was going to be in it, I have to admit, I was like, oh, well, that if you're gonna do it, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I was a little optimistic about it. I would say, there's literally like 3 jokes in it. It's a minute long. But the thing where he's the little girl, it's like a little girl walks into a bank robbery and then removes the mask, her face like Mission Impossible style, and reveals it's Drebin. I was like, it's kind of a CG joke, and it doesn't, to me personally, that didn't feel very Naked Gun.
Yeah.
Because that's just like Crazy Town. You know what I mean? Like that, we saw the little girl, she's like 4 foot tall or whatever. By the way, I realize how silly it is, me like nitpicking.
No, but you're not wrong. I was thinking about this. I was like, would it have been funnier if it was just Liam Neeson dressed like a girl and they think he's a schoolgirl? Something
like that. Yeah, that feels a little bit more calibrated to what I think of as a Naked Gun. But
right.
I'm just pointing that out. Like, it made me realize, okay, this is probably going to be half things I think are brilliant and half things I just have to live with because comedy changes. And you know what I mean? This isn't from the people who made it. And like, you just kind of have to walk in accepting that and being okay with that. And when I say that, is because I did like the second half of the trailer a lot.
Yes, very funny.
You know, the whole thing, I mean, it's a funny conceit where Liam Neeson is in front of a picture of Leslie Nielsen saying like, well, Dad, you know, like, you know, I just want to honor you through my work and kind of, and then they do this reveal that every police officer is kneeling with tears in their eyes in front of pictures of their fathers.
So Paul Walter Hauser is George Kennedy's son, and
yes,
etc.
Like just that joke alone, before we even get to the ending, like I was like, that's the Naked Gun. Like that is, and the cut to that wide shot of all the weepy cops on their knees, really funny. That I was like, there you go, that's it. And then of course we get the chef's kiss joke at the end that I've seen unanimous online. Everyone's like, okay, I'll go because of that joke. Which is, well, do you want to say it?
Yeah. So then we see a picture of O.J. Simpson as Nordberg, and we see presumably Nordberg Jr. just kind of looks at the camera and is like, just shakes his head like, no.
Yeah, everyone wants to honor their fathers, looking at pictures of their fathers, and then the son of OJ's character is like, and I mean, brilliant.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. So I'm in.
But you know what you realize watching that trailer is that they're not even attempting to appeal to a modern audience.
You know what's so funny? I was so distracted by it appealing to me that that hadn't even occurred to me.
Right? Like that the entirety of that trailer presupposes that you are a fan of The Naked Gun, and you know what I mean? Like, bear in mind, I mean, the last movie came out 32 years ago or something.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? Like this is not something that's really been living in the public consciousness, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. But you know, I mean, that's the thing where we talk about how the theatrical experience is changing. And one of the big things is we're not getting comedies anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, just, it's funny because I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of true. It's like, no, it's not kind of true. It's true. Like we're not getting comedies anymore in the theaters. And so I'll be very curious how this does. I hope it does, you know, whatever relative to its budget. Like I hope it's a success.
I mean, I can't imagine it costs that much. You know?
Yeah.
I am looking forward to it. Though.
Yeah. I can't wait to talk about it.
I remember there was an earlier iteration of this with Ed Helms playing the Drebin character.
I forgot about that. Yes, I remember that.
And I'm glad they didn't go with that, because that was my issue. As I was like, the reason Leslie Nielsen worked in that role is because he doesn't realize he's in a comedy.
Yes.
And Ed Helms is a very funny comedic actor.
Right.
But the whole dynamic would shift. And I think Leslie Nielsen would, I mean, he gives it a totally different energy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that, like, he doesn't realize he's in a comedy, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Hey, speaking of CinemaCon, we also saw an extended sneak peek at Superman. It's coming out this summer.
Dude, I am dying to know what you thought of this.
Well, so this is it's like a 5-minute sequence that essentially expands on what we saw in the earlier trailer, which is Superman crash lands in the Arctic. He's in pretty bad shape. Krypto shows up. He whistles for Krypto, who takes him back to his fortress.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get another bunch of mostly the same shots. I think a few bits added in that we haven't seen before from the previous trailer.
Yeah, like we haven't seen Krypto pouncing on him playfully and like hurting him, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then we get to see the Fortress of Solitude, and he's got these like robot caretakers inside. And I mean, is this come from a certain iteration, or? Oh yeah,
very, very heavily indebted to like Silver Age Superman, which is, you know, he's got his fortress stocked with these robots, you know, adorned with Superman symbols, and you know, very space age sort of 1950s sci-fi kind of, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's like Silver Age Superman. I like the bit where he's in bad shape, and they say, oh, well, you need an infusion of yellow sun rays. And so the entire fortress turns to face the sun. And I love the color, how bright it looks.
Me too, man.
Actually, before you go, I want to be very clear. That's not in any way meant as a critique of the prior films.
No, I mean, Man of Steel in particular, you mean? Like that? Yes. We both are on the record fans of that.
I know, but just
Yeah.
stipulate. Let me on the record again. Me talking about the color scheme of this film is not a critique of the color scheme of the previous film. But it's just I like the blue, just like popping, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I thought Crypto just like trying to play with him, and Superman be like, "Ow, ow!" I thought that was very cute.
Me too.
The thought, however, I did have this thought.
Yes.
And kind of is the same as Naked Gun. I'm like, is this appealing to audiences? Like we're sort of like in our movie film bubble, right? So we're like, oh, Superman, new Superman. Of course we're going to watch it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to sell us.
Yep.
But if I'm just like a random person and I'm like, oh, another Superman, and I see Superman like screaming in pain as his dog is like smacking him.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm like, does this turn the dial for me?
You know what's funny? I saw somewhere, I don't remember how it was conducted, Fandango or something like that, but it was showing the most anticipated movies of the summer. They did a poll.
Mm-hmm.
And this came in number 5.
I think Jurassic was like number 1, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I'll buy that. 5, I don't know, but I mean, Jurassic being number 1 makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. So
but I was
Superman number 5 out of like whatever 10 or 12 movies that are coming out this summer.
Yeah, I was like, oh, because I think I'm anticipating that more than Jurassic personally.
Yeah, I agree.
But okay, interesting. You know, I'll be curious. I'll be curious to see. I don't know. But I like it. I like how it looks. I like the tone. There's that moment where the robots are carrying him and there's a new robot.
You're right.
Like, oh, you know, hi, happy to be aboard kind of a thing. And even though he's in pain, Superman like gives a sweet nod to this robot, like welcome aboard. Right. I was like, oh, yes. Like that's the Superman I want. This is I haven't seen a lot, obviously. This is just like a scene, but I'm like, this is what I want. I want this feeling. I kind of want to see something nice, you know,
right.
You know, just like, why not shake it up a little bit? You know, like we've had like intense Superman. Let's have like fun PG Superman. Then maybe we'll do a different Superman in 10 years, you know, Batman evolve. Like as long as we're going to keep making these movies, I do want to see different tones and takes, you know?
Right. No, I mean, you're not wrong there. I think that my guess is as far as the tone and everything, I'm assuming I'm going to be on board just based on what we're seeing so far.
Yeah.
But obviously there's this added layer of pressure because this thing has to sort of hoist up whatever the next, 5 years of DC content is.
That's true.
And it's the question, man. I mean, I am the audience for Superman. Is there a large enough audience for Superman?
You're right, because it could be good.
Yeah.
But will anyone care, and will it make enough for what, business sense, like you say, to prop up a whole new universe?
Yeah. That's scary,
Yeah.
I like David Cornsweet. He looks the part. I kind of like that he's not muscle bound in a He-Man way. He's kind of got like a normal, kind of a Christopher Reeve looking physique,
Sure. Yeah.
All of that is helpful. I'm still not 100% sold on the uniform.
Yeah, I can see that. It's
a little too like it feels too padded, Sure,
yeah, that's a good point.
My wife does not like the symbol. I will say that she doesn't like the way that's been redesigned.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of one of those things where even now, thanks to Marvel, we're feeling more comfortable, or they trust audiences to lean into the heightenedness of comic book stuff. But it feels like there's still a sense of like, all right, well, if this comes from Krypton, why would it look like the Earth letter S?
Right.
So it's like they maybe need to hand wave it a little bit. It's like, well, it resembles an S, but it's a symbol. It feels like they're leaning into that with this.
More of a glyph, which my thing is, I think you're just overthinking it because I think the way the Superman symbol, like the traditional version of the Superman symbol, the way it looks, if you tell me that's an alien symbol, I would believe it.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Like I think they're trying too hard to make something work that most people don't have a problem with.
Yeah.
But it's a very small critique, obviously.
Yeah, but this was nice. I mean, this was supposed to be in front of the Minecraft movie, I think, exclusively.
Well, saved you a view.
Yeah, actually it crossed my mind because I was gonna try to see Black Bag if it's still playing, and
Uh-huh.
I thought, oh well, maybe I'll try to sneak into the beginning of Minecraft and catch this thing, and I was happy they released it.
I guess it got leaked, and they were like, "Okay, screw it."
From CinemaCon or something,
Yeah,
or
something.
from Minecraft, I guess.
Well, maybe, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't in front of the press screenings.
Okay.
You know. But hey, we got some other headlines. So Superman is obviously that's coming out this June.
Mhm.
It's packed because we got Jurassic and Fantastic Four and Superman all within 3 weeks of each other.
Yeah, feels like summers of yore.
it kind of a nice feeling.
Yeah.
But other big news. Hey, the Avengers.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. I saw the aftermath of this, which was basically they revealed not all, but a lot of the actors who will be appearing in the upcoming Avengers movie.
Yeah.
And I just saw it when it was done. And I saw some sort of, 5-minute video or something because it took 5 minutes to, a camera on dolly track to go follow these chairs,
Right. So just to paint the picture, there was a whole row of directors' chairs with names on the canvas.
Yes.
And so, yeah, to your point, it was a live stream spanning several hours.
That's what I didn't know. I didn't realize it took hours to reveal this thing.
As we went from chair to chair to chair. And you had, websites like Deadline and Joblo and whatever, just breathlessly. I mean, it was like the draft day picks or something,
Yeah.
Oh, and so-and-so is in it, so-and-so. And so it was a very long row. And then at the very end was Robert Downey as Dr. Doom.
Yeah, like sitting in the chair, right? He was actually in the video.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you didn't watch the entire multi-hour live stream?
No, I watched something that was, I want to say it was 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And like I say, it was just a camera on dolly track.
Yeah.
Showing all the chairs, wheeling down. And even that took like 5-6 minutes to show all the names. But I mean, my first thought, and it's like, I hate that instead of being filled with wonder, my first thought was like, how do you pay all these people? Yeah, I mean, like these aren't like 3, top billed names and then other people. Like these are all top bill actors.
Yeah.
How do you even begin to pay these people and make some sort of profit, even if you're giving them points versus money up front? I mean, wasn't it like 27 names or something were revealed, and that may not even be everyone.
Well, I mean, I suspect that many of them, this appearance counts towards whatever contract they already have, right?
Oh, that's true, right? They have some like an old Hollywood style kind of thing going on, right? Where they get paid for 6 pictures.
Yeah.
I
think Sebastian Stan has like a 9-movie contract.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Right. So for many, like so if you're talking about your M'Baku and Shuri and, Namor, that's probably that.
Yeah.
Of the Thunderbolts people. I think once you get to like Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen and
right,
you're probably making different deals,
Yeah. Which, speaking of, the old X-Men are in this movie.
Yeah. So we got Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, James Marsden, Kelsey Grammer,
yeah,
and Alan Cumming playing Nightcrawler, which is very cool. I was thinking about how Patrick Stewart, he made his goodbye in Logan, which was like 8 years ago, but he's come back already once since then,
right?
Because he was in Doctor Strange, and then I was thinking, oh well, he's probably just like, well, if Hugh came back,
right.
Because he came back for, well, then I'm going to come back to it, because these two cats, they have like the Guinness record for longest time playing a Marvel character.
It's pretty amazing.
Right?
Pretty amazing.
But all of this, I mean, this is just what's been announced so far.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was some conspicuous by their absence names, like I didn't see Tom Holland or Chris Pratt.
Yeah, or Chris Evans, right?
Chris Evans. Well, that would be, yeah. If he's in it, they're going to keep that.
Yeah,
close to the chest. Benedict Cumberbatch. I don't think he was. I didn't see his name, right?
I don't recall it.
I feel like, but Tom Hiddleston, he's going to be in it.
Yeah. Which he's last we saw in Loki, he's kind of busy. So I'm curious.
He's holding the universe together, or some such.
Yeah.
Shenanigans.
Very curious how they, if it's like Homer with the drinking bird hitting the key on the keyboard, if he comes up with some sort of contraption to be like, hey, here, this will hold the universe together. Like a finger trap. He sticks like half the strands into one end, and half the strands in the other.
well, Hemsworth is in it, so if we get to see Hemsworth and Hiddleston reunite, I'd be, that'd be a fun thing.
That's another thing too. When you think about the economy of writing that script, how do you give each of those people a moment?
Yeah,
that makes them feel like, yeah, this is worth me being in this. Like I get a moment, but how does it not become like 3 hours of just, okay, now Paul Rudd needs 3 minutes of a moment, Hemsworth and Hiddleston need 3 minutes of a moment. And like, how do you even like juggle this?
If you were asking me this 10 years ago, I'd be wondering that, but I'm like, well, they kind of cracked the code with Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they have shown that it's possible. This just feels like tripling down on it almost.
Yeah, I think that obviously some characters are going to have a bigger presence than others, but I think certainly if you look at Infinity War, they found a way to give the Guardians a pretty solid plot line, and you had different factions of Avengers, and it all felt nourished,
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I'm like, well, if you're bringing all these X-Men characters back, presumably they've got something substantial to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I think probably it's going to be kind of a farewell to these characters in some way. Yeah.
Right.
I will say, I'm already the audience, but it feels like a lot of people who were kind of MCU'd out got energized by seeing all the people who are going to be in it.
Definitely. I mean, I'll count myself for that. Like I still show up to the movies, but I don't feel the same way I did about them.
Yeah.
Because it feels, I don't know, how do you keep something that's been going on for so long feeling fresh? Right. But this, I got to see this.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I saw some people complaining like, by showing that the Thunderbolts actors are in this, they've spoiled Thunderbolts because now we know nobody dies. I'm like, what's wrong with you guys? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, there's that. And then also, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is a huge multiverse style storytelling recently, right? So, I mean, maybe it's something from the past. Maybe it's like, who knows?
Right. Like, of all the things, honestly. I'm like, okay, well then just don't watch it then. What do you say? But actually, speaking of MCU announcements, we got a couple Spider-Man related things. Number one, we got Spider-Man Brand New Day is coming out.
Yeah.
And this will be next summer after Avengers Doomsday.
Okay. Oh, same summer as Doomsday, but okay, coming out after that. All right.
After, yeah. So, presumably this might explain why Tom Holland isn't in it, or maybe it's there's some relevance to him being in it, which is why they're holding off an announcement of him being in it.
Yeah. And I mean, geez, where we left off, everyone's memory wiped of Spider-Man, including his loved ones. Like that really worked for me. I mean, I left that movie feeling more emotional than I had felt at a superhero film in a long time.
I agree.
And so I'm just curious where you go from that, like hopefully they can come up with something really compelling.
Something grounded,
Yeah.
Like, that's sort of, I was thinking about how at the end of No Way Home, he's living in a, like a shitty apartment, and he's got a homemade costume. And I'm like, we're back to kind of the Sam Raimi era Spider-Man.
Yeah, totally. Which I like. Yeah.
Right. And I prefer that to nanite costumes and multiversal shenanigans. I'm like, let's do something grounded. That's what I'm interested in.
Me too. I'm hopeful for that. And I don't know. It had a huge impact on me emotionally, which I loved. And so I just hope this is a successful continuation of that, where it's not like, all right, let's just jump into an adventure. It's like, no, let's like continue the emotional weight of that. Like I want to see him live in that and
absolutely
move forward from that and what that's like. And even if everybody remembers him again, which I'm sure somehow at some point that will happen, like, as long as it's satisfying, like I'll be happy camper.
I agree with that. Yeah. I and my sense is that Sony is done with their attempts to cannibalize Spider-Man characters,
Right.
So hopefully that means that they just double down on making Spider-Man as impressive as it can be as a film franchise.
Totally.
But Beyond the Spider-Verse, this is the sequel to Across the Spider-Verse. They finally have a release date.
Well, the last one ended on a huge cliffhanger, so I'm hoping it'll be as soon as possible. What's the date, Zachy?
It's yeah. Well, bear in mind this was supposed to come out like what 2.5 years ago or something.
Yes.
Because it was supposed to come out like 6 months after the last one, but no, it's coming out June 4th, 2027. So about 2.5 years out.
You know, I'm of many minds of this. One, I remember when the last one came out, which I really loved. There was some articles about behind the scenes turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think these movies are hugely improvisational, which is
Sure.
not something that's easy to do. You know, when you're Marvel, not that it's easy to do it in live action, but you throw money at something and be like, well, that's not working, film another scene. Well, that's not working,
Right.
film another scene. But in animation, that's a lot of work.
Yep.
You know, it's a lot of wrists, you know, trying to keep up. And so hearing that, I remember some insider, unnamed insider, was saying this movie is barely crossing the finish line. There is no way in hell the sequel is coming out with the date that they have planned. And then that date got, you know, extinguished. So I'm bummed that it's going to take so long, but if this means better quality of life for the people making this thing, then I'm all for that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Yeah. It's kind of like when it comes out, I will watch it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, once it's out, you've got your 3 movies.
Yes.
And those are your movies forever.
Yes. So do it well.
It's just, if you got to take time to grow roses, then grow your roses.
I know you and I feel that way.
I'm sure Sony doesn't, but definitely that oh yeah, here it's 6 months it's going to be here. It's like, well,
yeah.
That came and went, but it seems like there's a lot of enthusiasm for this third one. So
yeah, well, I mean, I saw the first one, thought it was great. I remember that one was a little under the radar when it came out, and you and I were sort of beating the drum for that. Like, hey, this is great. People should see this. And then I think it was the pandemic when it started streaming, a lot more people discovered it. And then when the second one came out, I think I missed it in theaters. And I knew it was probably going to be good, but I thought also, well, I've kind of seen this. Like it resembles the first one, and I'm sure it's just more of the good thing from the first one.
Yeah.
And then I caught it and was like, holy crap, this is great. You know,
yeah.
I love both of them. So, geez, I mean, yeah, if they're taking their time and they're doing it right, and if they have some sort of crazy improvisational style that means it's going to be great, but it comes out in 2027, okay.
But hey, I guess we'll believe it when we see it.
No, good point.
Speaking of believing it when we'll see it, tell me about this, Brian.
Okay, so go back in time with me to April Fool's Day 2025. Brian had already fallen for a Reddit post about an AMA with Kevin Spacey. And then I get a link from Zachy that says there's going to be a sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, one of my favorite movies of the past 10 years. But not just is there going to, which already I'm like, okay. But it comes from a script written by Quentin Tarantino. Brad Pitt is on board, but it will be directed by David Fincher. Now tell me,
when you put it that way, it's like, oh, now I hear it.
On April Fool's Day. And I was like, so David Fincher is a singular voice. You look at a frame of a film and you know it's from David Fincher, and he's so meticulous. So just thinking of him making another auteurs script is strange enough. A sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood from a guy who doesn't make sequels like Tarantino. Like, it's just, there's so many components of this that just do not feel like possible.
Yeah.
And so my response to you was sort of like, good one. You know? And then I started seeing throughout the day people like, no, I'm not kidding. Like, this is real. And then I had to like apologize to you. Like, oh, you weren't like yanking my chain here. Like this.
See, I didn't realize you didn't believe me.
Yeah. Yeah. So apparently Tarantino wrote a sequel that's about the further adventures of Cliff Booth, Brad Pitt's character. Apparently, Leonardo DiCaprio is in talks to join, and this
that's interesting.
will be made by David Fincher for Netflix, for freaking Netflix.
Wow.
I mean, again, I still feel like I'm reading an April Fool's Day post, but here we are. Here we are.
And it's going to definitively explain whether Cliff killed his wife.
I know. Well, that's another funny component about it, because in the film, I mean, I've talked about it quite a bit. I adore this movie. I don't know why.
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie, but something about it really got under my skin. And I've seen it several times. I've seen it in the theater several times. I went and saw it at the New Beverly. It's one of those things where you have these movies that become like sort of these canon event movies that you add to your personal collection, even though you see movies you like. But then there's every now and then, it happens less frequently the older you get, that a movie cements itself for you in such a way. But this was one of the more recent and last movies, I would say, where I was like, oh, that is now firmly in the Brian Hall canon of films. I don't know why. This movie just really connected with me in a crazy way. And so the fact that we're getting a sequel, I just couldn't be happier. My point, what I was going to say is, in the movie, the characters, of course, they're a little gray, as Tarantino characters are. And so Cliff Booth, it's kind of mysterious if he is like kind of a sinister guy or if he's just misunderstood. If you read the book, Tarantino wrote a novelization. Booth is a little more sinister.
Okay. That's interesting.
In the book, in a way that I don't personally want, honestly.
Okay.
So I am a little curious, because I do find him, I enjoy the mystery and hoping he's a guy who would think I'm cool. Like that's, that's the cinematic version of that character for me. But in the book, you're like, oh, this guy's a little dark.
Interesting. Okay.
So I am a little curious where the further adventures will go. But again, I mean, this is like day one. This is like, forget that. This is like midnight Thursday. Like I'm in my seat. Wearing having my little banner Homer style that just says "Once Upon a Time in Hollywood." So I couldn't be more. Well, actually, I won't be in a theater. It'll be on Netflix.
It'll be on Netflix. See, I put this out there before I'm gonna do it again. I think they should really mix it up and just make it a multi-camera sitcom.
Which, dude, I would watch.
I don't even know how that would work, but that's my pitch for the Yellowstone spinoff. With the
Beth and Rip.
Beth and Rip, do some Beth and Booth. There we go.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. I look, man, I remember when Tarantino was going to do a Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
So I truly will believe this when it happens, but I'm obviously all the ingredients are there to make me intrigued,
I still, even as I'm looking at it, this feels like a Mad Libs, like made up, kind of thing. But and it's funny too, because I've seen a lot of people thinking like, well, why doesn't Tarantino just do it? Oh, he's like so hung up on this 10 movie thing.
Yeah, which is so weird. Like, dude,
yeah, like maybe for a fraction of time, I was like, all right, I guess I get it if that's what you want to do. But now it's becoming like silly.
Yeah, I think it's stupid.
Because he believes Once Upon a Time is his best movie. And so if he cares this deeply about the world, do you really want to hand it over to someone who has a different voice than you? And, and then he was going to make that movie, The Critic. That was going to be his 10th film, starring Paul Walter Hauser.
That's right. Yeah.
And then I guess what he decided was he was no longer going to do that because he has kids now. And he wanted to wait till his kids were old enough to remember being on set.
Good Lord.
As daddy is making a movie. Which I sort of understand, but like...
No, that's fine. Hey, Quentin, how about this? Just make a bunch of movies instead of an arbitrary, limit you're putting on yourself for no discernible reason.
I totally agree. I would say don't feel any pressure to be like, all right, well, it's been 3 years. I got to do this. If you don't want to make a movie for 10 years, don't make a movie for 10 years. But if you have a story to tell, just tell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So
anyway, we'll see when that happens,
Yeah, I guess, you know what, even as we're talking about this again, I was going on like a roller coaster ride because at first I didn't believe it, and then I got really excited, and now you're like bringing me back to earth, like, yeah, if this happens. So.
Again, do the multicam Cliff Booth sitcom. That'll relieve all the pressure. You know.
Totally.
Actually, while we're talking about Yellowstone spinoffs and we're talking about CBS procedurals, did you see this? That they're doing a Casey Dutton CBS procedural?
No.
Yeah.
You know what though? That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, it's a really good idea.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. And I like that they don't all have to feel the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is that character. He's got a particular set of skills.
Exactly. I heard the pitch for that. I was like, that's actually not that works within that universe pretty well, you know?
Yeah, I agree. That's a good idea. That's thinking outside the box too. I kind of admire that.
Good job, Taylor.
Yeah,
Sheridan.
way to go, buddy. Although, are you watching 1923?
I'm waiting for the season to end, and then I'm going to watch it all at once.
Well, all right, then I won't say much. But okay, yeah, we'll talk about it then.
Well, it sounds like you're not liking it.
No, I would say it has a lot of strong moments.
Uh-huh.
It does feel a little wheel spinny.
Interesting. Okay.
And then it's just like how many misfortunes can befall, certain people because you need to stretch out what you want your end game to be.
2 misfortunes.
Exactly. Exactly. I knew I didn't even. Yeah.
9 misfortunes. I'd like to see that.
Exactly. You know what I was going for. So, but there's a lot of like veering into like misery porn, even.
Interesting.
Where it's like, good Lord, like we get it. Like, do we really need to keep seeing this? But there's enough there that I am enjoying that I'm like, well, I'm going to keep going. And I hope that this is getting somewhere. So
yeah.
I'll be curious to talk about it with you.
Okay. Well, we also have the Sam Mendes Beatles cinematic universe that he's putting together.
This is fascinating.
So interesting, right?
Right. So, I mean, yeah, what we're talking about is Sam Mendes, Academy Award prestige director Sam Mendes is going to make 4 separate Beatles films that will come out in the same month in April 2028.
Like once a week.
Once a week. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure Kevin Costner is like, what? After Horizons, it's like, you guys couldn't even show up 3 weeks later. But apparently the log line for this is each man has his own story, but together they are legendary. And Sony actually, their quote on this is the first bingeable theatrical experience.
Huh.
So I'm assuming then each one focuses on one individual, but it will overall tell their story, I guess.
That I guess.
I don't know. I mean, if this had happened in 2002, I would imagine a certain level of success. I don't know what this looks like in 20. Who can even imagine what 2028 is going to look like with the theater?
So honestly, my thought when I heard about this, and we were just talking about this kind of earlier, talk about the most boomer, franchise or whatever,
You're not wrong. I mean,
because I'll tell you something right now. I cannot imagine anyone under 25 going to watch 4 Beatles movies in the theater
each week. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'm there for a lot of reasons. I do like the Beatles, but
I even people who like the Beatles, who are younger, I don't think John, Paul, George, and Ringo have the cultural primacy to, as human beings.
Yeah.
To people who are post-millennial,
I don't disagree. It's funny because I want this to work. I think it's cool. I like that they're experimenting a little bit. I do wonder if a single Beatles film is a safer bet, and even that is a little I'm unsure of how that would perform.
I agree.
I don't know. I mean, despite my skepticism, I'm like rooting for it.
Hey, man, I love the big swing.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. I mean, the casting, right? It's like Paul Mescal from Gladiator 2 is Paul McCartney, Barry Keoghan as Ringo Starr, Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things and Quiet Place as George Harrison, and Harris Dickinson from The Iron Claw, and I think Triangle of Sadness, right? That's John Lennon.
Yeah.
If we're just being candid here, just between you and I was looking at that cast list and a picture of them, and I was like, is this the right cast or the right now cast?
Oh, that's so fun. Yeah, I kind of agree. Like certainly Paul Mescal as McCartney, I can't see that.
I don't see the spirit of that at all. Like
Yeah,
Paul McCartney, because I mean, obviously I'm sort of making a joke here, but like you look at Walk Hard,
yeah,
and they have that scene with the Beatles, and Jack Black is playing Paul McCartney, and it's funny because it's comedic, but kind of spiritually on track.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like you've got Black, like I said, Black is Paul McCartney, Paul Rudd is John Lennon, Justin Long, an inspired casting is George Harrison,
Yeah.
and Jason Schwartzman is Ringo. And it's like obviously they're cracking jokes, but you're like, yeah, but they are embodying their spirits pretty well here, you know.
Right.
And so I don't know that I see this here, but these are names, and these are names that I think younger people might spark to in a way. And I wonder if there's a calculus to that.
I here's what I would say. I mean, is any kid? Oh, Paul Mescal is in this movie. Let's go see it. You know,
You know what? I don't know. I don't.
Eh,
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm not even. I'm not denigrating him. I like him
Yeah.
as a performer. I liked him in Gladiator. I think he's a totally fine actor.
Mhm.
But I don't think movie stars exist anymore in the same way that they did.
That's true. Yeah.
And so you know, it's sort of like, well, if you're not going for resemblance, what are you going for?
I know, because like McCartney, I think of as sort of whimsical and heart on his sleeve, you
Yeah,
know, pie in the sky kind of guy. And like, I don't see that with Mescal, but like, obviously, there's they got something in mind. So
yeah. And I'm just like, I am like how long is each movie? Like, are we gonna have a situation where like the John Lennon movie is like 3 hours and the Ringo movie is like 87 minutes? You know, it's like, oh,
That's a good
you know?
question. That's a good question.
You know, like how much do we need here? You know, how much backstory do we need about the people who became the Beatles?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Again, I love the gumption,
Yes. Yes.
and that's what has me intrigued.
Yep. Yep.
But I am like, is this another Horizon situation? You know?
Yeah. I mean, this is the gamble of all gambles I've heard in a while.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm there. I'm there.
I'm very curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when is that coming out?
April 2028.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Ways out.
Well, it's kind of a good. That's like a dead month.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Well, that's some of the big news out of CinemaCon. I'm sure there's other stuff that's going to trickle out in the days and weeks ahead, though.
Yep.
Some other news I wanted to mention real quick before we tap out. So Richard Chamberlain passed away.
Yeah. I saw that.
Are you familiar with his work, with his oeuvre?
He's one of those people where I was like, I know that name, and then I had to look him up, and I go, oh, right. You know what I mean?
He was king of the miniseries in like the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, like Shogun and
Shogun is a big one. Yeah, Shogun. He was in the Thornbirds, both the original and the sequel.
right.
He was the quintessential TV star. Back when there was a distinction, you were either movie star or TV star.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was just, he had a personality that was something that really worked well on the small screen. Although he was in movies, he was in The Man in the Iron Mask. He was in Three Musketeers, the Richard Lester one.
Yep. King Solomon's Mines.
Solomon's Mines in the 80s. Those are the Indiana Jones ripoffs.
Those are the when I do Cinematrix and I need something that's getting me a low score with Sharon Stone. I'm like,
yeah, both of them, because it was like King Solomon's Mines and Alan Quatermain and the Lost City or some such shit.
Yeah.
It is something like that. Those were like Golan Globus, Canon Pictures.
Yeah.
Blatant Indiana Jones ripoffs. He was also in an adaptation of Julius Caesar with Charlton Heston.
Oh.
If you haven't seen the original Shogun, it's very good. He's in that.
I haven't.
Yeah, I mean, there's like the FX series, which is very well regarded, but the first, the first attempt in the from the 70s is still very good.
Yeah.
It's very different. But he starred in a miniseries which is near and dear to my heart, and I may have mentioned it to you before. It's called Centennial.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Based on a James Michener novel, and he played a character called McKeague. And this is one of these multi-generational storylines where the series itself spans, I think, like 12 episodes, and you're going from like the time of the Native Americans to the present day of roughly 1979.
Wow. Okay.
So you watch these characters come into the story, get older, and then they age out, and then and so he's kind of one of the integral characters there, and made a mark on me at a very young age. I found him a very compelling performer. So it's one of those things where he's 90 years old,
Wow.
but the legacy of work that he did, I think, is going to live on. I was talking to Amina just recently about how when we went on our honeymoon, we were at a Borders, and there was a thing that said, "Oh, Richard Chamberlain is going to be coming to sign his book or something,"
Mhm.
And it was like like 3 days after we left.
Oh,
I'm like, oh man, I would have loved to meet Richard Chamberlain,
yeah.
But that, like, a very, very distinctive face and voice, and kind of just from a bygone era,
Yeah. Yeah.
but great body of work. I want to put that out there, people. It's worth watching. Certainly the miniseries that he made. Some it still holds up.
Okay. Nice.
Still holds up. So he will be missed. 90 years old. Also, this one hit me hard, and I'm sure it hit you.
Yeah.
Val Kilmer passed away earlier this week at age 65.
65. Yeah.
Of pneumonia. He had suffered from throat cancer.
Yeah.
He had a tracheotomy. He did not die of cancer, to the best of my knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. That's what I thought I read.
But man, talk about, like, I don't know. I mean, he had not been appearing much lately because of his illness and stuff, but he still feels like somebody who's of our era.
Definitely.
Right?
I mean, yeah, going back to Top Gun is what I think of, and that was when we were like 6 or 7 or something.
Yeah.
So, like, right at the beginning when we were discovering movies, he was there.
Yeah. First time I saw him was in Willow in 1988.
Ah, okay.
He's very charismatic in that movie.
You know what's funny? I remember many episodes ago, I watched Willow for the first time, and I think that's what I said. The movie is like okay.
Yep.
But like everyone in it is great. Like Val Kilmer is great as the rogue.
Yeah, doing the Han Solo character.
Totally. Yeah.
And after that, I saw Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, in the 90s was really like it. Although, to be fair, in the 80s, he did Top Secret. He did Real Genius.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So already kind of made a mark. But in the 90s, you got Tombstone. You got, obviously Batman Forever, The Saint, The Ghost in the Darkness, which he was very good in. I don't like that movie very much. But, I mean, that was really his era. What was the At First Sight?
Oh, yeah. The romantic thing.
Yeah.
Then,
what were you saying?
The Doors.
The Doors, of course. Yeah, which I think I'm not crazy about that movie, but he's amazing in it.
Ditto, actually, on that. Yeah.
So definitely, like, you get the news like this, and you're like, man, because you just start thinking about your own movie watching experiences,
Yeah, and I feel like in recent years too, there was that documentary that came out, Val.
Yep.
And
which is excellent.
Very, very good. And I don't know. It's like I remember earlier feeling like he was a figure who you would hear like, oh, he's kind of difficult.
Yeah, he's a pain.
Yeah, and he very likely was, you know what I mean? But it's just like the Val, I thought, did a good job of showing his journey.
Sure.
It's like, this is where he began. This is, what his run was like when he was at peak, and maybe he was a little like this, but then he kind of like, became like this. And then he went through, this health experience, and now this is where he lives, and he's kind of into art, and he's really good at keeping in touch with people. Like, it painted a really detailed portrait of him.
Yeah.
That really endeared me to him.
Yeah.
And I kind of appreciated that. You know what I mean? Like it was like warts and all, so to speak. Like not trying to make him some sort of saint, no pun intended, but like
no pun intended.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like but I think that being that candid and seeing where he is in his later years and the kind of person
he was the saint, not a saint, Brian.
Yeah, that's right. Well, actually, just this morning I was reading an article on vulture.com. It was dictated by Will Forte, and Val Kilmer played the villain in MacGruber.
Right.
And so they became kind of chummy. And I guess there was a moment where Val Kilmer was like, oh, I'm going to move. I'm having a little difficulty with the landlord in this one location. Can I move in with you for just like a brief period? And Forte tells this story about Val Kilmer living with him for 2.5 months. And just he's like he went from being Val Kilmer to like my buddy.
That's so funny.
He Forte was like, oh, I was going to go for a jog. He'd be like, can I come with you? And he was wearing like a white linen suit, Kilmer. And he's like, all right, well, I'm in a hurry though. And he's like, all right, well, I'm ready. And he's like, you're going to, okay. So like they go for a jog and Kilmer's wearing a white linen suit going for a jog with Forte. And then like he said, there's one moment he's just in the kitchen hanging out and Kilmer comes in wearing his boxers on his head just to make him laugh. And you're just like, this.
That's the one thing I'm hearing a lot of is when you got to know him, he was just sort of endearingly weird.
Right.
I think in the mid 90s he walked away from Batman, and around that same time, Joel Schumacher said something to the effect of, he did me a great favor by agreeing to play Batman without having read the script, and then he did me another great favor by not coming back the second time.
Sure.
Right. And having played Batman, he talked about how the experience meant more in his mind than it actually did in execution. That all being said, it's been gratifying for me to see all the fond reminiscences from people who he was their Batman.
Right.
And I'm like, that's something magical too, right? Like if you're 5 and you go to see Batman Forever, and that's ground zero for you. Right. And that meant a lot, and it's clearly something that he did cherish even all these years later,
Right.
But talking about what you said about Will Forte remembering him, there's actually another article on Vulture, I don't know if you saw this, where James Rodriguez.
No, I haven't seen this.
He was, of course, the star of Psych. You've seen all of Psych, right?
Yeah, really like Psych.
So, the final episode of Psych has Val Kilmer in it. I'm
going to be honest, I've kind of forgotten this. It was a little while ago.
So throughout this, here's the backstory here. James Rodriguez, when he was auditioning for the role in Psych, he realized, oh, this is Chris Knight from Real Genius grown up. And he was a big fan of that movie, so he played it as if it was Chris Knight from Real Genius all grown up.
Funny.
And that was the approach. And so throughout the series, they would drop all these Val Kilmer references just because he was a big Val Kilmer fan.
I do remember that. Yeah.
And so there's a character called Officer Dobson who's referred to multiple times.
Right.
And so when the show was ending, they were like, we should have Val Kilmer play Officer Dobson.
Oh, that's great.
Right. And so they went to him and they pitched it to him, and this was when he was doing the Mark Twain stuff. I don't know if you remember this.
I do, and I so regret I never got to see that.
I know, right?
Yeah,
he was doing a one-man play where he played Samuel Clemens, and so at one of those performances, they pitched it. I mean, my sense is that he didn't even know what the show was, but he was sort of like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
And so this is per James Rodriguez. He says, we weren't going to make him fly to Canada to say 2 lines. We wrapped production on Psych. Everybody felt all those feelings, and we came back to Los Angeles. The 5 of us and a skeleton crew got together one last time to shoot this little scene with Val. That was the last thing we ever shot for the series, which was poetic. Having no concept of our show existing up until that moment, Val could clearly see how much it meant to us. And that's why it meant something to him.
Right.
He never went back to his trailer. He knew we all wanted to talk to him, hear a few stories, and be in his glow. There was this fleeting moment where I was like, am I going to exchange numbers with Val Kilmer and attempt to become a casual acquaintance in his life?
Yeah.
I didn't do it. I don't want Val Kilmer to be a guy I get a text from on my birthday. I want Val to be the icon that helped form me into the performer I am. I wanted to keep him on a pedestal. Isn't that great?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
But that's because he would in the last 10 years or so, once he wasn't able to speak in a way that allowed him to act, he would make appearances at conventions and stuff, and by all kinds, it was a very great experience for everybody who was able to have that moment.
If memory serves, I think on the Heat Blu-ray there's a Q&A thing with Christopher Nolan emceeing and Kilmer's participating, but yeah, he's speaking with the damaged voice.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And it's jarring at first. You're not used to it, but I was like, how cool. Yeah. Like he's there, like he cares about this and he's showing up and knows people care about his work. And
well, that's the thought, is like, he got to for 30 plus years he got to have people say how much Doc Holliday meant to them.
Yeah.
For almost 40 years he got to hear people say how much they love Iceman. For a quarter century people said how much they liked him as Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Like these were characters that meant a lot to people. Real Genius, Top Secret. Like he left behind a legacy of solid work in memorable films.
Yep.
And that's not nothing.
No. And then, I mean, even later works, like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, stuff
Kiss
that
Kiss
wasn't
Bang Bang.
even as like huge culturally, but for people who know it and love it, it's like, oh, he's fantastic in that.
Yeah. Which, by the way, that movie turns 20 this year, so we are going to be releasing a little something about that.
We definitely should. And holy crap.
Yeah, right.
20 years?
Right.
I would not have guessed that. But
yeah, I've already got that one slotted in for us.
But have we mentioned, by the way, like that he had the moment in Top Gun Maverick?
Yeah, I certainly, when I heard this news, I pulled that scene up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering how many other people did the same.
Yeah, that was really special. That they thought to find a way to include him in that film.
In a meaningful way, like in a way that's essential to that story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was also, by the way, here's a fun fact you may not know. When they brought back Knight Rider like 20 years ago.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
He was the voice of Kit.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
There you go.
How funny.
There's your telematrix or whatever.
Yeah.
So any other Val Kilmer performances that we haven't mentioned that you think are worth remembering?
Did we talk about Heat?
We did mention Heat.
Yeah. That was the one I put on when I heard that he had passed.
Oh,
and it's funny because
okay.
I had forgotten he's not in it a lot.
No.
He only has like a handful of lines, but one of the
makes a mark.
It makes a mark, and one of the biggest moments in that movie to me is when he goes at the end.
Yeah.
Thinks he's gonna go to his happy ending with Ashley Judd.
Right.
Like waves him off, and so I was shocked as I was watching it, thinking like, oh, I thought he was in this like a lot more because he made such a big impression. Top Secret, which we mentioned, it's amazing that movie doesn't get mentioned more because it's from the filmmakers of Airplane.
Yep.
And it's freaking hilarious.
Oh, so funny.
But it does feel like a cult item more so than something like Airplane, which feels like, oh yeah, Airplane, yeah, one of the best comedies of all time.
Yeah, maybe because it didn't do particularly well when it came out, and the stuff it was lampooning was a little bit more inside.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, but I've seen like on Instagram, I've seen a lot of clips from Top Secret coming up with him.
Yeah, so people discovering it,
Yeah.
I wanted to mention he made a brief appearance in an episode of Life is Short.
Oh, right.
Which is the Warwick Davis kind of Curb Your Enthusiasm type show.
Mm-hmm.
Where he visits Warwick Davis, and they're reminiscing about Willow, and Val Kilmer's like, oh, do you have a secretary? Let me, I do this gag and people love it.
Yeah.
And he enters the office with the Batman mask, and Warwick Davis tells the secretary like, oh, can you guess who this is?
Yeah.
She's like, well, it's Batman. It's like, yeah, but somebody who played Batman. She's like, Christian Bale? No.
Right.
Michael Keaton? No. George Clooney? No. Adam West? Like every other Batman.
And Val's just standing there in complete normal clothes, but with a Batman mask on with a smile, like waiting for her to recognize them. Funny. It's so funny.
So clearly, he was a complicated person, but everyone's complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think between the Val documentary and I would say that that documentary about Lost Souls, about the island of Dr. Moreau,
Yeah, good call. Yeah.
You get these interesting windows into the complexities of one human being,
Yeah. Two other stories real quick that I think speak to what you're saying right now. I was reading someone reminisce about being at a party and sort of like in a little group with Val Kilmer, and someone came up and said, got a light? Because he had a cigarette. And I guess Kilmer lit the cigarette, and then the guy just like didn't say anything. So Kilmer took the cigarette away and said, next time say thank you.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. That's a story I'm seeing online, but I thought that was kind of interesting and like funny. And the person who was in the circle was like, it just seemed like someone who like values, like helping someone and, people helping each other out. And it was just sort of like a code sort of thing revealing itself there. And then that reminded me of another story that Forte told, where when Val Kilmer was on set for MacGruber for, you know, the first days or something, Forte's still a little nervous and like, well, he's Val Kilmer, the movie star. How do I talk to him? So anyway, Kilmer's wearing this like red flannel shirt, and Forte says, "Hey man, that's a nice shirt. Geez, it's like such a me shirt. I got to get a shirt like that." And Kilmer just unbuttons the shirt, takes it off, and gives it to him. And it's like, and he wasn't kidding. He gave me the shirt. So
The shirt off his back.
yeah, I love that. I mean, that's like kooky, you know, but
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It's interesting too. Like it's what an interesting personality.
Yeah. Well, you know, if people can sum you up as being quirky and interesting, I'll take it.
Yep, in a positive way. Yeah, exactly.
In a positive way.
Yeah,
Like they say that with a far off look and a smile on their face.
exactly. Not like, oh, they burned down my garage, and he's kooky. He's interesting. You know?
There you go. So pouring one out for Val Kilmer. He will be missed. A singular presence. And you know, people are going to be watching his movies forever. That's just a fact.
Definitely.
So I think that wraps up this conversation. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah.
Covered a lot of bases.
I was just about to say we covered a lot of ground. Yeah.
But hey, if you have any thoughts on anything we discussed today, you can email us with those recollections and reflections at moviefilmpodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit like on our Facebook page, facebook.com/moviefilmpodcast, and message us there. We also have a Patreon page, Brian.
Yes, we do. If you head over to patreon.com/moviefilmpodcast, hit subscribe for only $5 a month. You'll find every commentary we've ever done and every episode we do moving forward absolutely ad-free. It's our way of providing what we believe is the most satisfying way to enjoy the show. Plus, your subscription goes a long way in helping to support us and helping to sustain producing the show. So if you're interested and able, please head over to patreon.com/moviefilmpodcast and subscribe. We'd be very grateful.
Yeah, and if you like what we're doing, in addition to sending us a message, you can also leave a review at Apple Podcasts and leave a star rating. Spread the word. Every little bit helps. And if you're looking for me online, you can find me on social media at Zacky's Corner. That's ZAKIS Corner. That's my handle at Blue Sky. And Instagram and also on Threads. You can also read my reviews at the San Francisco Chronicle and also my interviews. I just did an interview with Hank Rogers, the co-creator of Tetris, which you can check out at the Datebook website for the Chronicle. And there's stuff out there. Oh, my review of Minecraft, that's also out there too. So what about you, Brian?
Well, I have to say I read your Tetris interview and I really enjoyed that. So
thank you.
Highly recommend that. For me, episodes I've written of Young Jedi Adventures, new episodes at long last have recently dropped on Disney Plus, so you can stream those over there.
There you go. And with that, on behalf of my partner Brian Hall, my name is Zaki Hassan. This has been Movie Film 314. We will catch you next time. Thanks, folks.
Welcome, friends.